Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Aberdeen webinar this morning on SDS. Hope everybody has had a good morning so far. I know we've got a lot of weather events happening around the country, and it may have been difficult for some people to get to their offices or get to the appropriate computers to log on, but we've got a lot of people who have already joined us. I'm sure we'll have a few more. This is the second in the series of webinars that Aberdeen is doing. This one is being done in conjunction with NickSanta. And I'm actually going to start just right away by tossing it over to Chaz Stevens, who's the Director of Marketing for Aberdeen, to give us just some brief introductions of our presenters today. So Chaz, do you mind telling us who we're going to be hearing from?
Sure, thank you. And good morning to everybody. I'm listed as one of the presenters on this webinar as well, but I have a small, minute part in the meat of this presentation, which you will be receiving from Niso Levitas, our R&D manager here at Aberdeen, Yuval Beinel, who's Niso's right-hand guy and an R&D engineer. And then we're pleased to welcome Eric Cho from NickSanta, the Director of Sales and Engineering. And what we're going to be talking about today, you can see the agenda on the screen, just a brief history about how Aberdeen and NickSanta came together, go over our Abersan series, talk about the certifications, our SDS Plus product, which is our software-defined storage, and then talk about the different solutions we have, introduce you to some of our customers that have had success with this, and then take you into an example and a brief demo of the interactive web GUI that we have available. Again, at the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers that you might have, and you'll see in your taskbar for the webinar that there's a place that you can type in questions. So anytime throughout the presentation, if you have a question you'd like to propose to us, just type that in there, and at the end of our presentation, we will read through those and try to get those answered as quickly as possible at the end of this all. Also, one thing to quickly point out is in your little taskbar for the webinar is a handout available, and this is a special report that we've produced. You can download that PDF at any time, and that'll kind of take you through a lot of the information that we're sharing in the webinar today, but also give you a nice piece of material that you can go through and read and present to your IT staff and pass that around. I think you'll find the information in there very valuable. So with that, I will turn it over to Niso, and Niso will begin by sharing with us the history of SDS and NickSanta here at Aberdeen.
Hi. We started with NickSanta about 6-7 years ago, and it came out of necessity. What we were doing at the time, we were doing storage servers, and based on those storage servers, we were doing Windows-based NAS for Active Directory customers, and we were doing Linux NAS for Linux-based or VMware connection customers. So we were in a kind of a crunch. Now everybody was demanding more capacity. So before starting, we had a product on our desk that we were just trying out. It was 72 bays, and we had 3 24-bay RAID controllers. So, and it had 2 gig cache memory on each one of them. And we were presenting this as 3 volumes because you cannot span RAID among 3 cards. So you could do software RAID between those 3 cards. You can combine them, but again, it's not that stable. So we were looking for something that can go over more drives and less complications. So we were bound by the RAID controllers, and we were looking for a way out. At that time, this didn't call software-defined storage. The terminology was not there. So one of our engineers came to me saying that, hey, there is this company that is doing this in a very professional manner, and they came from some background, and they have a file system called ZFS, and it was a zettabyte file system. Of course, it's theoretical, but we were at that time, we were doing 72 drives, and it was selling. Even that premature product sales came to us, and just they sold that machine before I finished it. So we needed to add capacity as fast as possible. So we didn't know what it is. We get into some courses, and they said, oh, you can do much more than that. You can do 180 drives, 140 drives, however you like it, and you are not bound by RAID controllers. So we thought, hey, it's easy, then it's software defined. We just put HBAs there, some hard drives, and it's going to be easy. And we had some experience with RAID controllers for 20 years, and with NAS products about 5-6 years at the time. So we started building this, and we saw that it's not that easy. So we started to put everything in. We saw that there are compatibility problems because we were using everything off the shelf. We had compatibility problems, we had driver problems. For instance, you had that many drives and you want fast network connection, for instance, 10 gigabit cards. At the time it was pretty new, but we picked Intel card that is 10 gigabit. We put it in and it didn't work. We asked, hey, how can we get this working? This is pretty popular card, and we need to get it running. And they said, oh, you need to go to community, ask for drivers. So we struggled. Even with our experience, it took about 6 months for us to come out with something. So, and after we come out, we saw a lot of nice things. So after 6 months, we started with smaller products, and about in a year, we came out with a petabyte in a rack. We were the first company that actually demoed 1 petabyte of volume running in VMworld show at the time. So we were actually running it. We had a Windows file system that is connected to it, and we were transferring data. So everybody was claiming it, putting press releases, but we were the only one at the time that could do this. So, but we saw a lot of nice things about the software before it was defined as software-defined storage. So with RAID controllers, you know that it's a purpose-built processor on a RAID controller. And it had just limited to 1 or 2 gigabyte of cache, and you cannot grow it. With that software, we could actually use dual Xeon processors as the RAID processor, and plus we could use all the memory as the first level cache. Like if you have 128 gigabyte of memory in the system, most of it you can use it as a level 1 cache. And so it was a nice problem for us when we were testing it. We got a hard time getting out of the cache to see the actual hard drive performance. So it was that well. So we started this, and over the years we grow and we grow, and we still see problems with compatibility with off-the-shelf products, but we know how to handle them and what to do with them. For instance, V4 processors came out maybe like 6 months ago, and we saw a couple of problems, but we found out that we need to change a BIOS setting and it would work. So we did that. We now have a new, for instance, hard drive for read and write cache, and we were testing it. We see some errors on it, and we understand that if again we go there in the GUI, just change a setting, it's going to work, and we are certifying it now with more endurance. So we use off-the-shelf products, but we do extensive testing. So we had a lot of experience with NickSanta, and it's coming from a long line of problems. So so we came out with software-defined storage. These kind of things with software-defined storage, they think it's easy. It is very capable, but you need some experience to come out with this. So what we did as Aberdeen, we added our experience and expertise on hardware to come out with the Eversan series with SDS Plus. So we are going to discuss what we added as a value on the systems. You can see on the slide that shows many features of the software and our hardware. So one of the value adds that we do, if you are familiar with VMware and you are familiar with their support system, when you call them, they ask you what kind of hardware do you have you are running. So first they ask, hey, what kind of servers do you have? You say, I have this server. They check if it's on their HCL. They move on to the storage. On the storage side, what kind of software on that storage does not concern them. What concerns them is what is the hardware. They ask you just a model number because they think that it's as an appliance. So you give them the model number. If it's on their list, it's good. But if it's not on their list as an appliance, you get rejected of support. So what we do with every SDS system, NickSanta system that we have, is certified with VMware, every single model. So also, we talked about problems, but you don't see them with us. What we do, we go through certification with every single model of Aberdeen to extensive NickSanta certification. So before it goes out, it comes out with NickSanta certification and VMware certification. When it's out of the door, it's ready to go. You don't see the problems, and let's say you have a hardware in it that you want to replace an HBA, you change it with the same model, you are good to go. So we are not proprietary, but we are very compatible and tested with software-defined storage. And a couple of more advantages that I'd like to add. We use off-the-shelf hard drives. So if you are familiar with proprietary systems, you buy, let's say you buy half full, the remaining parts are filled with blanks. So if you want to add a hard drive, you usually have to go there and ask them, and they sell you a hard drive, mostly 3 times of the price with a tray. You cannot, even if they have a tray, you cannot add your own, because what they do, they write their own proprietary firmware on the hard drive. So even you plug the hard drive, it doesn't work. So they will claim that, oh, hey, the firmware had to match. That's why we have to keep it. That's why we have this on it, and it's 3 times more expensive. But every IT knows that you can get a hard drive, you can just check the firmware, download the firmware, upgrade it to the same level, and you can just plug it in. So we don't do that. We just give you our regular default firmware hard drives. You can buy from us in the future for expansion with 5-year warranty on it at the same price as retail. Regular you can buy with 5-year warranty on it. Or you can just go and buy yourself, upgrade the firmware, and just plug it in. You don't need us there, or we are not, I mean, we don't want to go proprietary. So, or if you see a card, anything that you want to change, you can change it yourself. You are not dependent on us. All that said, with all the hardware we give, we implement 5-year warranty, even the hard drives. Some companies are going to sell you the whole thing, and they say you buy warranty on them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And when you call them in 2 years, they may tell you that, okay, the hardware is warranty, but the drives, we cannot know the usage of your hard drive. Maybe you are wearing them out, but we don't do that. You call us in the 4th year, we want to change a hard drive, we are going to send you a hard drive. So these are the big advantages with Aberdeen with software-defined storage. Experience, certifications, off-the-shelf, and 5-year warranty.
Nisa, why don't you take us through now our software-defined storage in action, starting with the popular product that you mentioned earlier, the Petiraq.
So the Petiraq, when we started it, was full with 1 petabyte. Now the 1 petabyte is just taking 1/3 of the whole rack. So you can go about 5.4 petabyte of storage on it. It's highly available with 2 head units, each head unit connected to JBods individually, not daisy chained. And you can create the RAID, if you create the RAID efficiently, a JBod failure, or head unit failure, or any HBA failure is not going to affect your storage. And it is, it has NickSanta Software on it, which has which prevents silent data corruption, and reliable ZFS file system. So with each JBot, you get about 60 drives. Now on the photo, you can see that there are 3. You get 180 drives. So this with the software, iSCSI block level is built in. You can do fiber channel, or you can do NFS on it, no problems. So dual head units, dual controller JBods, redundant PS. This is a reliable enterprise level product with the software. Memory is upgradable, as I mentioned earlier. The main memory is the first level cache on the storage. You can also add SSDs as write and read level. So you can have we have them separately. For read cache, you can add a couple of drives for read, and you can add a couple of drives for write, and plus the main one is the memory on the systems. So all the head units has 10 gigabit built in, so you can do iSCSI with 10 gigabit just off the bat. And it's cloud and virtualization ready, VMware certified, and we can even grow it further with multiple racks. So you saw on the system the biggest scale, the Petiraq. But your needs today maybe is lower, or you are thinking it as a backup storage. You don't need high availability at all. You just need reliable storage and with lesser capacity. So as you can see, we have these models for different needs. The first three, Z23, Z33, Z43, are single head unit, non-AJ systems. And ZXP4 AJ is the base of the Petiraq. That you can start with a single head unit with no AJ and the JBOD with 60 bays, and you don't have to fill all the 60 bays. You can have a head unit, 10 hard drives. You want to grow 50 more drives in the future, you can. And if you want to add another head unit and do high availability in the future, you surely can. The first three ones I said you cannot do AJ, you cannot, but you can grow the storage. You can get HBA card and a JBOD. We can give you a compatible one. You can buy it yourself, and you can edit, and it's going to expand. If you expand with us, of course, it will have our 5-year warranty.
Great, thank you, Niso. As we jump into this next slide here, I wanted to just point out a couple of the customers that are currently using our software-defined storage and our Aberdeen series. The first one I want to point out is NBC Universal. Now, this was an excellent opportunity for us to present our Petiraq to NBC, which they are currently using it in production for video files. And it's been installed now for over 3 years, and they're currently looking at upgrading and purchasing an additional 512 terabytes of storage. Another one I want to point out is NASA. Everybody's heard of NASA. And NASA's purchased 2 of our Petiraqs, and they've installed them in both the Denver and Houston flight centers. They're both using those for archiving flight data. So that's an extremely big win for us. Also, Fortitude Technology is they're a hosting company, as you may be aware, and they're using our product for production storage, and they have 3 NickSanta systems currently running there at 256 terabytes each, and again have had these installed now for 3 years plus, and again still under warranty with us, and also running with no problems at the time. So we're extremely proud of those. And some of the other companies you can see here, the Army Corps of Engineers, VMware, and just to name a few. So very happy to have these customers on board, and we hope that that kind of gives us some credibility for the types of businesses that we're providing our systems to, and we hope that we can provide them to you as well in the future. Right now, we're going to pass it over to Yuval, who will take us through our Aberdeen Nexenta web GUI and kind of show you some of the features and benefits of that. So Yuval, you want to take over from here?
Thanks, Chaz. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to talk about another advantage that you get with our Aberdeen Nexenta line, which is the Aberdeen plugin for the Nexenta Web Manager. Now, in the world of software-defined storage, the best thing you can do is be completely hardware agnostic. But that doesn't mean that if you have prior knowledge of what the hardware is, that you shouldn't take advantage of that. And that's exactly what we did here at Aberdeen. We built a custom plugin for our hardware, which provides ease of management. And let me show you a demo real quick. Thanks, Chaz. This is what our plugin looks like. This is the actual head node in a system that's up and running right now in our labs. This is the Aberdeen ZXP4. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see that it's connected to a 60-bay JBOD. This is actually what the JBOD looks like in real life. This is a graphical representation of what the system is. Now, our plugin helps you identify failed drives. one of the worst things you can do if you have a drive that needs to be replaced is accidentally pull out the wrong drive. So when a drive fails in the system, this slot here is going to turn red. Let me see if I can highlight that. Any drive that you identify is going to turn red. So it really jumps at you. You don't have to worry about scrolling down multiple JBODs and then finding the right one. We try to make it as easy as possible for the IT admin. Like I said, these are all the drives that you have sensor information about temperature and voltage, power supplies of the JBOD. We have 3 of them. This is the actual Petiraq that Nisa was talking about earlier. It comes with 3 JBODs, and they're all here in our plugin. It's pretty easy to manage.
I'd like to jump in.
Sure.
If you are coming from IT background, you know that if you have a full rack of storage, and when a drive fails, it's not very easy to find the drive. If it's top load like this, and you have 60 drives, a JBOD, and you have like 6 JBODs, it makes like 360 drives. So you don't know the drive, what the drive should be, which shelf is it in, and which row is it in. So with this, you can actually say, okay, third JBOD from the top, for instance, the drive number 15 is failed, and you can actually see it on the graphical representation, and you can go to the third shelf, just drag it out, and exactly see the drive blinking as it blinks on the GUI.
Which is what you get.
Yeah. So if you notice that when a drive fails, you kind of stress it out because you could pull the wrong drive out. If you pull the wrong drive out, your array is going to fail. So this is a nightmare for IT. And with software-defined storage, some SDS systems are failed to do it right. So you have to study to find out the hard drive, and with community editions, it's really, really not that easy. So Aberdeen prepared this GUI in addition to NickSanta Software to correctly identify the drive.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk about another advantage of the Petiraq, which is high availability. Essentially what that means is you have 2 head nodes. We've named them here Node 1 and Node 2. They each have their own IP for individual management. And those nodes are connected to shared JBODs. They share JBODs through individual SAS controllers, taking advantage of dual controller JBODs and 2 SAS channels that come with SAS drives. And they monitor the storage constantly. They monitor themselves through a heartbeat connection, and they monitor the storage through quorum devices. Now, if a failure is detected by either one of the nodes, and this could be an entire node failure, or this could be JBOD controller failure or a network failure, if any kind of failure is detected, then the system automatically corrects for that. The passive node, which is the node that has been active until now, that hasn't been sharing the storage, takes over from the node that's failing to present the storage in a seamless manner. And for that, we have a floating IP, which is indicated here by the virtual IP. That IP moves from active node to the passive node in a failover scenario. So your clients don't have to worry about unmounting the shares and then remounting them again. They're completely unaware that something like this is happening in the back end. Now, if we take us back to the web manager, thank you, Chaz. I'd like to show you what this HA plugin looks like. Yeah, what we're seeing here is the 2 nodes. If you'll notice, I logged in through the virtual IP. That's the IP that's up here. When you log in through the virtual IP, the node that's currently holding that IP is going to be the one that you're going to use to manage the cluster. And here we have a view of what the cluster looks like right now. We've mounted a volume here that we called test pool. And as I said earlier, since both nodes can see the storage, that volume exists in two states. In the active node, it appears to be an available volume, which means it's online, it's mounted, and all operations go through that node. On the secondary node, the non-active node, it appears as an unmounted volume or an exported volume. And in a failover scenario, which we're about to see, this will turn into an online volume on the second node, which is right now the passive node. So I'm about to trigger a failover here and show you what it looks like. I'm failing over from node 1, which is the active node, to node 2, which is the passive node at the moment. Now, another part of this failover is that the IP, the virtual IP that I was talking about, it has to float over to the passive node, which is about to become the active node. So if I refresh the screen, you'll notice that after a few seconds, I will be showing the cluster through the newly activated node, which is node 2 now. And the volume here appears as online, available, mounted on node 2, and through the virtual IP, and your clients are unaware of what just happened. This is a completely seamless failover. Take it back to you, Chaz.
I'd like to say a couple of things. That you can use, of course, this is for a failover scenario, but you can use this for other purposes as well. You can actually manually do this and take one of the head units out. You can add memory, you can add network cards, you can clean it out. So this is not only for failover scenarios. Of course, the main usage is this failover.
Great, thank you, Niso. And at this time, we mentioned that our software-defined storage systems was running with NickSanta Software. And NickSanta, we have Eric Cho on the line with us, as mentioned in the agenda portion. And I'd like to turn over now to Eric to kind of take us through that software and some of the benefits and features of that. Eric?
Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. My name is Eric Cho. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering at NickSanta, covering the Americas. Wanted to just go over some of the feature sets that our product provides for the overall storage solution. Like the Aberdeen team has been mentioning, we are a software-defined storage software company. So what that means is we don't sell any hardware. We work in conjunction with companies like Aberdeen to create overall solutions that are enterprise ready by taking server, basically commodity hardware and making that enterprise capable. Because we're software only, we follow the belief that all feature sets are defined in software nowadays. If you look through a history of storage in the last 5 to 7 years, there was a big uptick in new features that customers were super interested in. And as time has gone on, competitors would eventually pick up those same feature sets. So a good example would be thin provisioning or deduplication. These are features that companies, when they initially released it, customers gravitated toward because it helped deal with their overall storage strategy. But now, 5, 6, 7 years later, that feature is now standard across all storage companies. So we are very similar in that sense. It's just we are a software-only solution. So giving customers the ability to have choice. And choice with things like Petiraq are really powerful for what our customers are looking to do. But also on the small side as well. I mean, because we pair with various hardware solutions, customers can find solutions that are as small as 8 terabytes all the way up to multi-petabytes. So with that said, our feature sets really reflect today what customers are expecting to have with storage features. So we have thin provisioning, we have unlimited snapshotting, replication, all those things that you would probably expect. but also we are a file and block solution. So we provide both NAS and SAN capabilities. And these are both native protocols to us on its own. Now, the reason I say that is because companies who might talk about being a quote-unquote unified block and file storage product, they might have block in the back end, provisioning out LUNs or volumes to the clients, but they also would have probably a gateway that is managed through a single GUI that then does file. For us, both NFS, SMB, both file services are as native as Fiber Channel and iSCSI are on our solution. And all connectivity goes through the backend PCI slots. So on the back end, we have a 10 gig card or a 1 gig card, and that will serve SMB, NFS, and iSCSI. It can be all three at the same time out of the same port through a network port. And the Fiber Channel is available through just sliding in a Fiber Channel card into another PCI slot. In terms of features, we've gone over the HA piece already. But the scalability is massive, going from, like I said, 8 terabytes all the way up to 5 petabytes. But that limitation is not necessarily from the software. It's actually due to hardware. Right now, scalability is created through density. Density of JBODs, density of drives, going from, 2 terabyte drives now to 10, 12 terabyte drives availability. As these hardware pieces continue growing and getting larger and larger, our file system is completely abstracted away from that. So as that grows, we will grow. Like I mentioned, unlimited snapshot and clones. We have inline data reduction. Now what that implies is having the ability to have thin provisioning, inline compression, which is on by default, and deduplication, which is available as well. Protection schemas on the drives are provided through our software RAID. We feel that hardware RAID is limited in two ways. One, through performance. You can only get so many drives behind a RAID card. But secondly, through capability. Traditional RAID really maxes out at 2 parity drives. There really aren't any different concepts that are being innovated in that area. So having the ability to have software RAID allows us to go up to 3 parity configurations for customers who have extremely large configurations with extremely large drives and are more and more concerned about drive rebuilds. That is one thing that we're hearing a lot from our customers, just the concern about drive rebuild times as drives get larger and larger, specifically around the 10 to 12 terabyte drive size configuration. And that absolutely is a real concern to have, and something that, if you guys are interested in learning about, we can discuss more after this webinar. Replication is included in the product. So all that's to say, the features you want are included. We're not nickel and diming you. We are not here to try to create more value by charging you for the features that you want. It's all in the product from day one. Now on the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about use cases. So customers might ask us, what is your sweet spot? What is the one area that you guys work great at? And for us, that's an answer that is a little complicated technically. And for me, I'm a technical guy, so I want to try to explain that for you guys, for you all, so that you have a good understanding of what the implications are here. So for us, we define use case not by our product or by not by our product, but rather by the drive configurations that we create in conjunction with our hardware partners and with our customer base. So what that means is you can start as as low pressure as a backup target or an archive tier, and even serve out use cases such as OLTP databases. We can absolutely run the gamut between all those various use cases. And the great thing is the platform is completely the same across. It's 100% homogeneous, as is the interface and administration. To kind of illustrate this, I have here 3 sites: Site A, Site B, and backup target array. I kind of just want to walk you through what that could potentially look like. So on the lower section of the slide, we have backup target array. This would be traditionally considered what you're integrating into with things like Commvault, NetBackup, Backup Exec, etc., as a backup target for your clients as they stream data into it. So this would be we would be taking 2 servers, 2 Aberdeen systems, two of their controllers, connecting them via SAS to JBODs in the back end. These JBODs can be anything from a 12-bay to much significantly denser, and then filling this up with drives. So it's typically 8 terabyte drives, maybe 10 terabyte drives. If you want super density, or 2 terabyte drives if you don't have that kind of density at all. But the backup target array would be filled up with 100% all spinning hard drives. The reason is because the workload is sequential. We're expecting, the customer or the use case is not expecting high IOPS, and we're predominantly looking for data to be streaming in from the targets being the backup clients. That works great. Customer, y'all are happy. You think that it's actually faster than it really is, which is something we hear quite often from our customers. And you know about the capability of getting faster. So great, Eric, I want to see what you can do in our VMware cluster. So now we move to Site B. Site B, let's say it's a smaller data set. It's a smaller total capacity, but it's a more visible use case. In this case, it's going to be VMware. So now, again, we take the same servers, same system nodes that Aberdeen provides, hook those up to JBODs, and then instead of 100% spinning drives, instead now we go 96, 98% spinning drives, and we slide in SSDs. We typically leverage 2 for write caching and 2 for read caching. And these drives can be included on the fly. They don't have to be in the system from day one. It is unobtrusive to add these drives to the system. The system absolutely takes advantage of the performance benefits. So now Site B has a VMware cluster in place. Again, this is a hybrid pool, leveraging both spinning drives for capacity and SSDs for performance. And we're off and running. And you see the system and it flies. Super happy. All the VMs that you're getting, latency is quite low. As you do load testing, you see that the IOPS capability is much higher than you expected. And this is something that you're super giddy about. Now, let's move over to Site A. Site A is your high-intensive, super visible OLTP database that backs your key applications within your organization. On this, typically you're gonna, you're looking at, let's say, an all SSD solution, something that you feel needs the kind of performance that kind of configuration can give you. We can do that as well. So with this, again, same configuration. Now in the JBODs, instead of spinning drives, we're doing 100% SSDs, putting those drives into the slots, and we're off and running, connecting that to your database. And this flies. Now the performance is even higher than it was before. And then adding another wrinkle into this entire configuration, we also replicate from A to B to be able to have a DR recovery site. Another option that you can have, which, like I mentioned before, is included in the cost of the product. Now, I just described to you 3 separate use cases. Typically, in many storage companies, you're using 3 separate products. You're using an all SSD array, you're using a general purpose SAN, and you're using backup target to disk array. For us, it's a single platform. In this case, it would be Aberdeen. A single administration pane, us, and a single piece of knowledge of the software on how to use it, because it's NickSanta on all 3 systems. The only difference, again, is the backend drives that are supporting the entire ecosystem. So on the next slide, we can see another illustration of this breakdown of use cases. On the right side being backup, archive kind of use cases, all hard drives, using RAID configurations that are high capacity gaining. So you have the lowest dollar per gigabyte, highest capacity. So great configurations on this side. On the left side, we have all flash configurations, transaction on enterprise applications, Exchange, SAP, Microsoft SQL, Oracle. And again, leveraging all SSDs in order to get a huge increase in IOPS of your applications that absolutely need it and that have this kind of demand for it. And then in the middle, we have a hybrid configurations that are dealing with your generic file servers, your generic virtual machines, whether it's VMware, Hyper-V, CloudStack, OpenStack, etc.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yep.
I appreciate you taking us through all that. That's really great stuff. On the next slide here, just to move along rather quickly, I know we're getting towards the end of the presentation here and wanting to make sure that you can all get back to your lives. as soon as possible back to your busy schedules. But wanted to touch real quickly again on our warranty. I think it's a really valid, extremely important point that we offer here at Aberdeen. Niso mentioned it in the features and benefits, but our warranty has been around since the company was founded 25, 26 years ago now and counting. So Aberdeen's not going anywhere. And with our 5-year warranty, this is available on all servers and storage, including the drives, which Niso mentioned earlier. So I wanted to point that out and reiterate that for you. We also have a great Aberdeen technical team that's available to you, and customer service and support. That's all available to you with this 5-year warranty. So I think that's a really strong point that we have. And also, you know, you might be thinking, well, I'm ready to give Aberdeen a try and want to look at one of these systems and how I can implement it into my own environment. We recommend that you get in touch with one of our account executives and ask them about our free 30-day trial assessment or our CARES program. With our CARES program, we'll custom configure a system for you, get the software all uploaded on that, and ship that out to you so that you can test that in your own environment and make sure that it's working the way you want. And if you're happy with it, you can keep it at that point, or you can say, you know what, this isn't quite meeting my expectations, we can send it back. But we are confident in the fact that it will meet those expectations, and so we would hope that you would just keep that product and start using it successfully. So just to summarize our presentation real quick, Aberdeen with our hardware and NickSanta and their software have come together to create what we call the SDS Plus, which is our software-defined storage plus. And all of these products are available on our website at aberdeeninc.com. You can visit there, and from our homepage, you can go into our Enterprise SANS section. That'll list all the products that we featured in the presentation today. And at this point, we'll just take a look and see if we have any questions that we can answer. And for that, I'll throw it over to Brian, and he can bring up, I think we have time for a few questions here.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple minutes left. And I've got a couple questions here, and these might have been touched upon, but I think these are good and would bear hearing the answers to. So one of the questions that came up, what happens when one of the head units fails?
It is very easy, as you can see, as you saw in the demonstration, that it automatically will going to fail to the second head unit, and you are not going to even notice it. It will send you a notification email if you set it up, and you'll be aware of it. At that time, you'll pull it out, we'll do the maintenance, we'll put it back, and from the graphical user interface, you can put it into the high availability mode with 2 nodes as soon as you get there.
Gotcha. Great. Another question that came in, if you buy a smaller unit and don't want redundancy, can the system be expanded?
As we show on the demonstration, on the slide that what the models have, the first 3 models that we have is non-AJ models, and it is easily expanded by adding HBA and JBOD. You could add your own, you could use NickSanta's HCL, but what you can do, you can buy from us with 5-year warranty, compatible and tested.
So we have one more that's sort of in that vein. What does it take? What does it require to grow a system?
It's easy. You get an HBA, JBOD, and add capacity licensing. That's pretty much it. It's very, very simple.
Great. So I think what we need to do now is we need to call a wrap. I know there's some other questions. What I'd like to ask of you, we've got a copy of these. We can reach out to you if you have any very specific questions that we didn't get to during the webinar. Please feel free to call us or to email us. We'll have the contact information up in just a moment. If you have an account exec, you can always go directly to the account exec. If you don't, we'll give you an account exec on that. I want to just make reference to a couple other bits of information in case you want it. So in the handouts, we have the special report on SDS. That's also available on the Aberdeen website on aberdeeninc.com. Right on the home page, scroll down a little bit and you'll be able to download that. We also have the special report that we did on scale up versus scale out. You can also access that all the time from the website. And then lastly, just so that you know, on YouTube, if you search Aberdeen LLC, you will find the Aberdeen YouTube channel, and there's more than 20 videos currently posted up there about products and about using the product. So I invite you to go and use those and have your staff look at those as well. Chaz, you've got just the last housekeeping on this?
Yes, sir. One question is, how do I get that free coffee I've been told about in all the emails you've sent out? Well, we will be sending that out as an electronic gift certificate or electronic gift card. All of you in attendance, you will be receiving that email either later this afternoon or first thing in the morning, as soon as Starbucks processes all of the emails I send to them. And so you'll get your coffee then. Hope that you were able to find some coffee this morning and have been able to enjoy that while we went through our presentation today. And finally, we'll leave up the contact information here for you. And we want to thank you very much for your time. We went a little bit over our 45-minute allot time, but we hope that you enjoyed this valuable information, and we look forward to having you join us on our next webinar. And until then, from all of us at Aberdeen, I want to say thank you once again and have a great afternoon.